What's going on, everybody? It's Nick here, and this is your second stimulus check stimulus package update video. Now, we've got lots of news to cover in today's video, but before we do that, I want to quickly invite you to hit that subscribe button below and turn the bell notification icon on. Now, let's get straight into the video. At the start of this week, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader for the Republicans, announced that President Trump had three things on the legislative agenda that he wanted Congress to tackle.
The President highlighted three additional issues of national significance he would like to see Congress tackle together. First, as he explained, the President would like further direct financial support for American households. Second, to re-examine the special legal protections afforded to technology companies under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And the third subject is exploring further ways to protect the sanctity of America's ballots while continuing to respect the federal government's limited role in standing behind state and local government who actually run elections.
On Tuesday, President Trump increased pressure on Mitch McConnell to put the $2,000 stimulus checks to a vote in the Senate by tweeting, quote, "Unless Republicans have a death wish, and it is also the right thing to do, they must approve the $2,000 payments ASAP. $600 is not enough." But when Senator Schumer and Sanders asked McConnell to schedule the $2,000 stimulus checks for a vote, McConnell refused to do so. Instead, later that night, Mitch McConnell introduced a new competing bill that lumped the $2,000 stimulus checks in with the controversial bills related to the big tech liability shield and election fraud. Wednesday morning, President Trump put the pressure on Mitch McConnell to put the $2,000 stimulus check bill to a vote by tweeting $2,000 ASAP. McConnell defied President Trump by refusing to put the bill to a vote. However, here's what McConnell had to say on the Senate floor Wednesday morning.
Here's the deal. The Senate is not going to split apart the three issues that President Trump linked together just because Democrats are afraid to address two of them. The Senate's not going to be bullied into rushing out more borrowed money into the hands of Democrat rich friends who don't need the help. We just approved almost $1 trillion in aid a few days ago. It struck a balance between broad support for all kinds of households and a lot more targeted relief for those who need help the most. We're going to stay smart, we're going to stay focused, and we're going to continue delivering on the needs for our nation.
Shortly thereafter, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader for the Democrats, called on Mitch McConnell to let the Senate vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks separate from the other issues and let the chips fall where they may.
Leader McConnell should bring both measures up for a vote and let the chips fall where they may. I believe both measures, the defense override and the $2,000 checks to American families, will both pass.
Here are some other highlights from Schumer's speech.
And our unlikely ally, President Trump, this morning tweeted, 2,000 ASAP. For once, Democrats agree with something on President Trump's Twitter feed. Let's send $2,000 ASAP. So I want to be very clear about one thing. There is no other game in town beside the House bill. The only way to get to the American people the $2,000 checks they deserve and need is to pass the House bill and pass it now.
Schumer again called for a vote on the $2,000 stimulus check bill, and McConnell again blocked it.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of H.R. 9051, a bill received from the House to increase recovery rebate amounts to $2,000 for individuals, that the bill be read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is heard.
Later that day, Bernie Sanders spoke on the floor of the Senate. Sanders said it was okay if McConnell and other Republicans voted against the $2,000 checks, but he pointed out that McConnell's refusal to allow the entire Senate to vote on the matter was anti-democratic.
All that Senator Schumer and I are asking of the majority leader is a very simple request. allow the members of the United States Senate to cast a vote. If you want to vote against $2,000 checks for people in your state, vote against it. I see Senator Toomey here. He has been clear about it. I suspect he will vote against it. I respect his opinion.
Sanders used blow-ups of President Trump's tweets to highlight the bipartisan support for the $2,000 stimulus checks that McConnell is blocking.
We have a very unlikely ally in President Trump. There ain't nobody here who's disagreed with Trump more times than I have. And yet here is what the leader of the Republican Party says. He says $2,000 ASAP. So even on this issue, amazingly enough, the President of the United States is right.
Bernie Sanders then asked John Cornyn, Republican senator from Texas, to explain why he and McConnell were opposed to allowing the Senate to take a vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks.
What is your problem with allowing the Senate to vote on whether or not we are going to allow Americans, working class people, to get a $2,000 check? Now, I gather that when that vote comes to the floor, and I hope it comes immediately, you'll vote no. And you'll explain to the people of Texas why you voted that way. That's called democracy. I respect that. But what is your problem with allowing the Senate to have a free-standing vote? There are a number of people on your side, Republicans, who have already come forward and say, yeah, they want to vote for this $2,000 check. Now, if you want to deal with corporate liability, that's fine. Let's deal with it at some point. Bring forth the bill. We can vote on it up or down. All that we are asking for is a simple up or down vote on the issue that tens of millions of people are talking about right now. Will they survive economically in the midst of this terrible pandemic? So I ask my colleague from Texas, what is the problem with allowing the U.S. Senate to vote on the bill passed by the House? And I yield to my colleague from Texas.
Instead of answering the question presented to him, Cornyn instead explained why he would vote against these stimulus checks if he were allowed to do so.
This legislation that the senator from Vermont is advocating would benefit households with annual income over $350,000. They would get this money. Why not couple it with liability protection for people who are acting in good faith? This is about every business that's worried that a game of gotcha is going to take place and they're going to end up paying the price. If they're not interested in engaging in a negotiation where people who, through no fault of their own, find themselves victimized by frivolous litigation, then we'd have no alternative but to continue to object to this request.
Sanders then called Cornyn out for his non-responsive answer.
The senator for Vermont.
If you listen carefully, you understood that my friend from Texas did not answer my question. He has a concern about corporate liability. It's a legitimate debate. You know what? Bring it to the floor. Let's vote it up or down. I will vote against it. You will vote for it. Senator Cornyn, we're asking a simple question. You want to bring up corporate liability? Bring it up. You want to bring up Section 230? Bring it up. You want to bring up the man on the moon? Bring it up. But what the American people want now is an up or down no vote. Now, you're going to vote against it if it comes to the floor. That's fine. It's your right. Explain it to the people of Texas. I will vote for it. But all that I am asking for is the right as a United States Senator to have the vote. And again, I ask you, what is your problem with members of the United States Senate, including a number of Republicans who have already indicated they would like to vote for this? What's your problem with bringing that up as a single standalone bill, not merged with corporate liability or anything else? What's your problem with that?
Then on Thursday, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, held her weekly press conference during which she expressed frustration over Mitch McConnell for continuing to block a vote in the Senate for the $2,000 stimulus checks.
Democrats and Republicans in the House have passed that legislation. Who is holding up that distribution to the American people? Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans. Democratic leader Schumer yesterday asked for unanimous consent to bring it up in the Senate, which was blocked by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate. In blocking it, they are in denial of the hardship that the American people are experiencing now, health-wise, financially, in every way. Their lives and livelihood, in many cases, are on the brink. So they're in denial of that need in denying this benefit. I do hope that in the days ahead, we only have a few days left in this session, that they will see the light and understand what the suffering that is going on in our country. Now, I've said before, it's amazing to see the patience that some people have with other people's suffering. These Republicans in the Senate seem to have an endless tolerance for other people's sadness. We urge Mitch McConnell to stop his obstruction and to bring that legislation to the floor of the Senate. And we urge Republicans in the Senate to encourage him to do so.
That same day, McConnell continued to block voting on the standalone stimulus check bill for $2,000.
Now, for several days, we've heard some senators say Congress must send more cash to high-earning households who haven't seen any income disruption during COVID-19. Our colleagues who purport to be the champions of vulnerable Americans now say that what struggling people really need is for Congress to stop focusing on targeted relief for them specifically and to instead send thousands of dollars to people who don't need the help. Experts from across the political spectrum agree that our colleague from Vermont is dead wrong on this. Socialism for rich people is a terrible way to help the American families that are actually struggling. So let me say that again. Borrowing from our grandkids to do socialism for rich people is a terrible way to get help to families who actually need it. Washington Democrats took President Trump's suggestion and skewered it so the checks would benefit even more high-earning households. Imagine a family of five where the parents earn $250,000 per year and have not seen any income loss this past year. Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders want to send them $5,000 from Uncle Sam. They make $250,000. Nobody's out of work, but our so-called progressive friends say the household needs, quote, survival checks. In fact, they believe a family of five should have to earn $350,000 before the spigot of government money would stop entirely. Socialism for rich people. That's what Speaker Pelosi and Senator Sanders have sketched out. A terrible way to help those who need it. And experts across the political spectrum agree. The liberal editors of the Washington Post have blasted so-called progressives demanding a non-targeted giveaway that would huge amounts to perfectly comfortable families. Larry Summers, who ran the Treasury Department for President Clinton and the National Economic Council for President Obama, says there is, quote, no good economic argument, end quote, for more non-targeted checks with no linkage to need. The liberal New York Times reported this morning that a majority of the households that get non-targeted checks do not end up spending them on urgent needs, but rather just add to their savings. Quote, we know where the pockets of need are, end quote, said one economist, and, quote, putting money there would be a much more efficient use. Fortunately, Madam President, though some of our colleagues seem to have forgotten, that is exactly what we did only a week ago. It's been less than 5 days since President Trump signed into law another historic bipartisan rescue package targeted to Americans who actually need the help. We passed an entire second round of PPP loans to save small business jobs targeted to the hardest hit. We renewed multiple kinds of additional federal benefits for unemployed workers, including an extra $300 supplement every week. There are billions for targeted food assistance, billions for targeted rental assistance, and many billions of dollars for vaccine distribution so we can finally beat this virus and reopen the economy in full. These are the kinds of targeted emergency programs that directly help the most vulnerable. And we just poured almost another $1 trillion into them less than 5 days ago, along with more direct checks that are already arriving in households' accounts. That, Madam President, is what we did just 5 days ago. This crisis has not affected everyone equally. The data show that many upper middle-class Americans have kept their jobs, worked remotely, and remained totally financially comfortable. On the other hand, some of our fellow citizens have had their entire existences turned upside down and continue to suffer terribly. We do not need to let the Speaker of the House do socialism for rich people in order to help those who need help. Our duty, both to struggling Americans and to taxpayers, is to focus on targeted relief that will have the maximum impact and help the people who need it the most. That's what the experts say we should do. That's where there is broad bipartisan support, and that's exactly what we did less than 1 week ago when nearly $900 billion in more targeted relief was signed into law for our people.
Schumer responded to McConnell's criticisms with the following.
The Republican leader has refused to allow us to vote on legislation to provide the American people $2,000 checks. I hope every American who has their water or heat or electricity shut off, or had eviction notices stapled on top of one another to their door, or had to choose which meal to skip on a given day. I hope they all heard the reason they will not receive $2,000 checks is because Leader McConnell thinks it could wind up in the hands of, quote, Democrats' rich friends. So the Republican leader has invented an excuse to prevent a clean up or down, yes or no vote on $2,000 checks coming to the floor. This maneuver to combine all three issues is intended to kill the possibility of $2,000 checks ever becoming law. Just to prove it, let me make this offer to the Republican majority. We're willing to vote on the other issues that President Trump mentioned, all the issues the Republican leader says must be addressed, so long as we vote on them separately. That way, $2,000 checks could become law, and we could debate all the president's supposed concerns. Just give us a vote on the House-passed bill so we can get help now to people who desperately need it. Heck, we can also have a vote on repealing 230. We can do it today. We'll use Leader McConnell's exact language. But he won't agree to that because he knows his caucus wouldn't actually support such an act. We have a chance at the end of this painful year to give Americans a reason to have some hope in 2021. The only thing standing in the way is the Republican Senate majority. I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of Calendar 645, H.R. 9051, a bill to increase the recovery rebate amounts to $2,000 for individuals, that the bill be read a third time and the Senate vote on passage, and then if passed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is heard.
Sanders also took the floor on Thursday to talk about the stimulus check bill. Here are some of the highlights from Bernie Sanders' speech.
Now, you want to talk about socialism for the rich, Mr. Majority Leader? Under that bill, Charles Koch, one of the very richest people in America, he has a net worth of $113 billion. That bill gave Mr. Koch a $1.4 billion tax break. Majority Leader, that sounds to me like socialism for the rich. Senator McConnell had no problem giving a $104 million tax refund to Amazon over the past 3 years, despite the fact that that company made $30 billion in profit. So the argument that this bill in any significant way benefits the rich is just not accurate. All of this comes down to one simple fact. Will Senator McConnell, the Republican leader of the U.S. Senate, allow this body to vote on a bill which will provide $2,000 per person to working class families all across this country? That's what this whole debate is about. It's not whether you like the bill, you don't like, we can have that debate. Got 3 days left in this Congress. The House did the right thing. It's now time for the Senate to have that vote. So, Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that at 3 p.m. today, Thursday, December 31st, the Senate proceed to the consideration of calendar number 645, H.R. 9051, to provide a $2,000 direct payment to the working class. That the bill be considered read a third time in the Senate vote on passage of the bill, and that if passed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table. Further, that following the vote on H.R. 9051, the Senate resume consideration of the veto message on H.R. 6395, the National Defense Authorization Act, and the Senate vote on passage of the bill. The objections of the President to the contrary notwithstanding, all with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is heard.
So will the Senate get to vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks? Only time will tell. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you have not done so already, and turn the bell notification icon on so that you don't miss any of my second stimulus check update videos. That's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, give it a like, and as always, thank you for watching.